What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday. Welcome to another episode of Comic Collector Origins, where we break down the origin stories of the community. People that have been collecting comics, people that are getting into the industry now and in the hobby now. If you're new to this channel, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you drop a comment in the comment section below. And if you're live here today, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. And of course, if you're watching the replay, I always appreciate you guys taking the time to watch those. Before we get into it, I do want to introduce my guest for today. His name's Pat. He goes by PatCaveComics, and you'll get an idea as to why his name is that shortly as I bring him in. It's interesting. I met Pat through an interview he did with a guy named Gary V, actually on LinkedIn. Had nothing to do with comics necessarily, but he brought it up. I tracked him down, and we've kind of been talking ever since. So excited to bring on Pat. And by the way, if you guys are wondering, I am in my kitchen because my internet issues that you guys may have seen last time. So don't mind my background. I am excited to show you guys Pat's background, though, since he is in the Pat Cave. So let me bring him on. There he is. Pat, what's going on, brother?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And just look at that background, dude. You're killing it, man.
Well, I appreciate it. And this is about like maybe 1/6 of the basement. So it's incredible. Growing rapidly, that's for damn sure.
I bet, man. Literal cave, the Pat Cave. I love it. So before we jump into it, tell me a little bit about yourself, just so people get an idea of who you are.
Okay, so I'm 28 years old. I'm a videographer. I've been doing that for about 10 years. It kind of led me into making this show. I just figured, it's about time I worked on my own stuff and my own passions. And so, after, like you said, the Gary V interview, I was so motivated that I just dove right in, started unboxing some comics. And this is, the first time during this quarantine, like took about maybe 4 days to collect all my comic stuff, all my memorabilia, and just finally do it. Like, it was scattered throughout the house. Yeah. So it's finally nice to have it in one spot called the Pat Cave.
That's incredible, man. And guys, I should just mention below, if you're not already following Pat, make sure I put his link in the description for his YouTube as well as his Instagram account. And you can see more details of this Pat Cave on his YouTube channel. So make sure you check that out. I do want to say a quick hello to the chat before we jump into some fun questions. So we got Hood Rat Comics. Ian, what's good, homie? Good to see you, brother. Thanks for stopping in. Todd Christian, always great to see you, my friend. Hello. And we got Austin here. Hello, Austin. Good to see you, man. Thank you for stopping in. And guys, feel free to drop any questions or anything you want to know about Pat and his origin as we get going along here. Raging Cajun Comics is in the house. Good to see you, brother. All right, cool. So, all right, Pat. So let's dive a little bit into it then. When did you get? There's gonna be a two-part question here. When did you get into like the joy of comic related things, whether it's characters, the movies, whatever? And then when did you actually start collecting literal comic books?
So, growing up, I was born in 92. So, I kind of was a kid during the, Batman animated series, Spider-Man 90s animated, like all those great shows. And of course, like little McDonald's toys and stuff like that. That's what kind of like piqued my interest. But as a kid, everything did, right? So Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, sports. But then it wasn't until Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I can remember the place I was at in my old house watching the exact TV when I saw that first trailer. Like, I was blown away. It was kind of like the first comic book movie that had good special effects, right? So like, I was like, that looks real, So
yeah, hell yeah.
I bought everything Tobey Maguire, like everything Spider-Man. At one point I wanted my parents to paint me a mural of Spider-Man on my room, and they're like, give it a couple of years. I don't think you're gonna like it.
Oh man,
anyway,
that would be great.
So that's when my collection kind of started. But ever since I was a kid, my dad's had rooms like this, with just like Star Wars, everything pop culture. Like, musician stuff. Like, so he's always been a knickknack / memorabilia kind of guy. So I think it's in my blood for sure. But
sounds
then,
like it.
So I kind of wore off of that, like being a kid collecting Tobey Maguire stuff. I have all of it still. I'd never get rid of anything. Nice. But then it was probably recently, probably about 5 years ago, when I really got into maybe 6 years ago when I really got into Batman. Like, just, and actually it's kind of a weird situation. Like, I was really skinny, and Batman's one of those characters that I think people look up to because he's a regular human, right?
Yeah.
You know, I could actually be Batman if I had enough money, possibly, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I started working out, and like, actually my trainer put together a whole Batman regiment, and like, he made it fun for me, right? Mm-hmm. So I got really into physical fitness, and then through that, I started like going to Comic-Cons, and just my collection started building and building. And then, of course, everyone started asking me about, oh, so what comics do you like? And I knew nothing. So, as you could tell, that's when I started, you know, picking up comics.
Right. So that's interesting. So it wasn't the comics that came first, which certainly everybody has their own path. And you're not the first to talk about, you know, the movies and the shows and the cartoons from the 90s and different things that, you know, can get people, you know, in. That's what's so great about the hobby, I think, is there's so many, you know, routes to go to lead you to, you know, all to one thing. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, even my parents, like when they saw I was interested back in 3rd, 4th grade into Spider-Man, they actually bought me some comics, and I went and found some, but I was not a good reader. Like, I could not read to save my life.
Yeah.
I still never read a book before. So I'm much more of a video learner, active. I'm an artist, so I've never really. Anyway, I like the pictures and the art behind the comic, which I think a lot of people do. So
100%.
And that's why I collect them now. So I've been getting some slabs here and there. Been learning from like you and other YouTubers of which ones to buy, maybe to wait, maybe to sell, whatever. So it's been fun. Like, I'm really loving it.
It's great, man. And I have to say, so, you know, for everyone watching, I like I said in the beginning, we met probably right before the pandemic or right around the pandemic. I guess that was right at March, April-ish.
Yeah, 7 months.
Yeah, because that was when you were on that interview, and that's where everybody was home at that point. So it was cool. So yeah, you talked about your love for, one, your kind of combination of editing video and the things that you do like that, and then your passion and your love for the characters and the comic related stories and stuff. So hearing that, you know, kind of chasing you down and reaching out to you via Instagram, you know, worked out. When was it that you decided that you wanted to create this world that you're now designing in terms of your YouTube channel and your Instagram channel?
So, you know, before the Gary V thing happened, I was like writing my first script for the Pat Cave. Okay. And that was like, maybe I took like a month to write it. And so like, it was kind of one of those things that Gary always talks about. He's just like, you're kind of finding an excuse. You're not out there yet, so you don't have to dive in yet, right? But once that interview happened and I had like this background, you know, the first thing he said was, "Where the F are you?" "Oh, this is my basement." And he's like, "Do that." He's like, "Do that." Yeah. And so right after I hung up that call with him, like my social media started flooding, you know, and I felt like, you know, a little 15 seconds of fame, celebrity action. And so like, you know, I started to respond to everyone, and everyone's question was, where can I find your YouTube show? Where can I find your superhero stuff? And so that's when I was like, screw the script. You know, I have a comic that I ordered that's in a box. I'm just going to unbox it and talk about it. Yeah. And so that's how it kind of naturally started. I dove in and haven't looked back. So that's incredible.
And I should note too, thank you for having me as a guest as one of your shows right off the bat.
For sure, man. For sure.
It's cool to, like I said, kind of look back and see how you've grown from your collection to your following to, I mean, even just the room has been developing, you know, as you keep getting more posters and things like that. I was just watching your most recent YouTube channel earlier today, and I saw some really sweet Spider-Man and Batman posters.
Those are sick, weren't they?
Very cool. Yeah, very cool stuff. So tell me a little bit about the cosplay side of things, because you said you started going to Comic-Cons.
Yes.
You fell in love with that. Your first Comic-Con, like what was that like, or where was that? And were you dressed up then, or did you not get into it yet?
You know, so I guess it all started from Halloween. You know, every Halloween, because I had this obsession of superheroes, I always dressed as a superhero. Didn't matter if I was Tony Stark in a blazer with a goatee or something extreme, you know, like a Green Lantern, full mask and everything. But and so I did go to my first con in Chicago, C2E2, and I went without a costume. and I felt so left out.
What year was this? When was this?
This is 2014, 2013 maybe.
Okay.
And then the next year, 14, was my first Blue Lantern Dick Grayson like mashup. And I wanted to build my own outfits, but then I realized I'm not that kind of guy.
Right.
Just let the experts do it and I'll buy them, so.
Yeah, I dig it.
And, that culture is crazy. It's like, some people go there just to take pictures with people.
Yeah.
I choose a more practical outfit because I want to look at toys, comics, and not. Sometimes I just wear sunglasses because even the mask is annoying to me. So,
Sure.
But props to those people that are in like, 30-foot outfits or like carrying big props and stuff. So
hell yeah.
It's fun. Have you been to a couple cons?
I've done a couple cons myself. Never dressed up, but I do love the atmosphere of that. And I've certainly taken pictures. I've asked people for sure to take a picture of them or with them.
For sure.
I love that. Yeah,
definitely.
Austin here says, where did you get that that Green Lantern shirt, sweater, whatever it is?
Wait, hold on. Let me stand up. It's
Check
a one.
that out. That's awesome, dude. You got the ring, right? Everything?
Yes, I got the ring. I also just ordered, I just got in a red lantern, a yellow lantern, and I'm going to be doing like an unboxing wearing on my page. And then over here, I got my blue lantern, my green lantern, Kyle Rayner, and just like a black suit so I could like deck it out with like different symbols and stuff.
That is so sick, man.
So I got this through a couple sites, aestheticscosplay.com. They kind of take a bunch of different artists and stuff and put it into one place. And then, I can't remember the name of the other one, but they're like specific. So I put in all my measurements. I can add a couple things. I got no gloves because I like to, like I said, at cons, like to look through stuff, use my cell phone.
Yep.
I get a zipper in the front because it's not fun go to the bathroom with a friend at a Comic-Con.
I can imagine. I can only imagine.
And then, actually, I should probably put up a tutorial on YouTube about how to zip up your own bag because I look ridiculous getting into this by myself.
That's so great.
So they're just going to keep growing. I really like the onesie. Like it's even in cold situations, it's kind of like an Under Armour. So
okay. Yeah,
it still works. Yeah, it works.
Yeah, nice. I love it. I love it, man. So that's cool. That's I mean, as we're talking about, your experiences with a Comic-Con and going for the first time and just seeing everybody, and then coming back the next year and just fully all out, like going in the party. I don't blame you at all. So let's talk a little bit about. I know you said you started buying comic books. I guess so. Within these past like 7-8 months or so, is that right?
Yeah. So, I had that little collection of ones my parents bought me back in the day. And then of course my parents had some from my dad's time. So I have all his stuff too. But my first purchase was mainly just for like a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Just because like somebody sent me a Facebook Market thing that was like guys getting rid of 400 comics for like maybe $300.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. I'm like, that sounds decent. Like, so I went and bought them, didn't even look at any of them.
Right.
I get them home and, I have maybe a long box and a half of just random stuff. Like, and there's a lot of good, X-Men. I think we talked about that on my channel.
Yep.
But others that I have no clue. I've never even heard of. A lot of Image Comics, a lot of like indie stuff.
Yeah.
But I just ordered about 100 bags and boards. That's what they're called, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm about to, go through them, sort them a little better. Maybe I would love to pick your brain maybe after the show about like how to index and categorize this stuff. Yeah. Totally. So other than that, like I've been watching YouTube stuff and like learning more, and I downloaded Key Collector and, I've been buying some slabs here and there. So, this was my first purchase. It's a
great one.
Yeah, it's Nova, the first appearance of Richard Rider, 92, and it's one of those things where like I kind of love specking on the game of like, I know Nova has not been mentioned in the MCU, but the Nova Corps has, and all these little clues leading to it. So it's kind of fun to like speculate on which hero is going to be the big next thing. So
Right.
I actually bought 2 of those because I was that confident.
Nice.
This one's actually signed by Marv Wolfman. So it's
nice. That's signed. That's beautiful.
Yeah. The CBCS, and so I one to sell, one to keep in the future.
Yeah, man.
That's my goal.
Very cool. It's well, first of all, I want to say you mentioned Marv Wolfman. It's funny. My last guest that was on here, Brandon, he was just talking about how he almost got into an accident with Marv in a car accident.
What?
Like a year ago or so. And it's just funny that you brought his name up.
That's funny.
He ended up instead of honking and getting mad, was like, oh, hey, you're, he knew exactly who he was and was like, love that guy. So
I would not know what any of these artists looks like. I just started, so I would have no clue it was Marv.
Yeah. So I love, this is definitely a different angle of some of the things that we're talking about because of the fact that you're a little newer and you're learning, which I love. And we have this section of the show where I ask about, what kind of advice would you give to someone collecting or something of that sort. But hearing your thoughts on what you're seeing and what you're going through, even you mentioning how you're downloading the Key Collector app and things like that. It's a cool, different angle, I guess, of a guest than I've had ever before.
Yeah.
So this is perfect. I still want to ask you about kind of your own advice that you'd want to give somebody just from your own early experience of approaching things. But before we get into any of that stuff, have you been reading any comic books? Are you diving into anything particular now? Is there anything that you're enjoying currently, whether it's current reads or older reads or anything like that, or nothing?
So I, like I said before, terrible at reading, right? So I, don't remember the stuff. I'm a little dyslexic. It's, especially with reading comics, you do kind of have to know how the bubbles go, right? So I'm sure there's YouTubes about that. I probably have to look up to. But the first one I read was I tried to do issue by issue, and before I was collecting them, to get a run, I just couldn't do it. I'd read 7 pages and was like, wait, that's it? I got to buy a new run. So I ended up buying, what are they called? The
the trade paperbacks?
Yeah,
trade.
Yep. Yeah. So a friend just got me Flashpoint.
Nice.
I've of course seen the animated movie. I've seen every animated movie there is, and that's what I'm probably the biggest nerd on, is every animation there is for DC and Marvel. There's little animation that haven't seen. Those little short one-offs, those 2-minute things that they make, probably haven't seen those. But I did read a lot of good Batman ones, Hush was fantastic.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I was I take them on the plane when I travel, or maybe in the car during a road trip and stuff. And I just couldn't turn the pages fast enough. When I was getting into it and understanding it, I was just holy crap. And it's hard not to look forward on the page, right? So I'm up here reading and I'm just kind of.
Yep. Yeah. I want. Yeah.
And I'm trying to stay focused, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
So that's I haven't been reading anything this quarantine. I've been mostly just focused on doing the show and getting guests on and collecting. But I have kind of picked through my dad's old comics, and I found, so back in the day, he and my mom ran card shows, big card conventions. They lived in California and would do sports stuff. And then, of course, comic books were big back then, and Stan Lee came as one of their guests. And so he signed one of these Fantastic Four. There's right there.
Love the foil covers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the foil covers. So I will send that into CGC and or CBCS, because we don't have pictures of or proof of him signing it.
I was going to say, be careful. Yeah. If you send
Yes, exactly. So I know CBCS does that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this Spider-Man anniversary.
Stanley
93. I was 1 year old, and my dad to Tom.
That's awesome.
Can't really sell this one. This one's going to be
right.
In the family for a while.
Unless you find someone named Tom, then you never know.
Something like that. I don't think it's even worth it. Like,
Yeah.
you have a couple of those.
Yeah.
But I say out of those 400 comics I bought from that guy, I'd say this is probably my favorite. The number one Green Arrow.
Oh, nice.
From
like
the Kevin Smith run, and that's probably one I'll just send in to get like. I don't know if CGC does like just like cases without the grading. I'm sure they do, but
yeah,
kind of one of those. I think that'd be a great, like, I know, Comic Tom and those guys have talked about it being a good service, and I think a lot of people would take advantage of that.
Yeah, they're definitely. I guess you could say there's great stories and horror stories for each of those companies. I feel like, but I'm sure as you do more of your research, I'm sure you'll kind of discover what you want to go with. I currently have some books that I'm waiting on for CGC right now a lot of people would probably say CGC is the staple company of all of them. A lot of people, if they're going to buy some expensive Grail book, usually they want it done by CGC. They want the CGC label. I think it looks a little cleaner than the CBCS one, a little more professional.
I agree.
But CBCS, they're starting to step their game up now too. So it's all a preference of your own. There's no wrong answer.
Sure.
But I see some people in the chat here. Theo saying CGC is the way. Yeah, it's a live or die thing to some degree. Morbius is in the house. Good to see you, brother. Todd saying, nice. I love that Green Arrow cover. The Kevin Smith run was a lot of fun. There you go. And Rage is talking about amazing art in your hands is the best thing ever. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
I am not very much on Green Lantern. I've talked to you about the idea of I'm not as much of a DC guy in general, and I get this hint that you are. So tell me a little bit about who is. I'm assuming it's Green Lantern, but if not, who is your favorite character and kind of why?
Yeah, so it was one of those things where growing up, I was a big Spider-Man fan, like I said, because I was a kid and I can relate, and he's, fun and lighthearted. And then, of course, like when I got older and dug into Batman's story, that's when I realized that Batman was my favorite character for a long time. I kind of look back and I'm like, yeah, my 5th grade party, Batman theme, all the toys I have, all Batman. Like, it made sense, but I just didn't understand Batman's story. Spider-Man was like the one that, oh man, I would be like at the top of my playground with that glove that sprayed confetti silly string. Watching over my backyard like the city she sleeps, and
I love it.
So that's so Batman I would say is my number one.
Okay.
But then there's subcategories of like my favorite Batman character, Nightwing. I think Nightwing is a big number one for a lot of DC fans.
Yeah.
But so it'd be like Marvel as a kid, DC now.
Right.
I still like Marvel right now. Like I said, I just got some Nova stuff. I love what they're doing with the movies. And like, God, I cried in the theater 22 out of the 22 movies. So yeah, like I love those films. So I use Green Lantern though as a cosplay because there's no mask. You know what I mean? Like Batman, it's like a lot, right?
Yeah.
But also I fell in love with Green Lantern back in 2014 when I started cosplaying because a friend showed me Green Lantern animated series. And it was unfortunately pulled way too early. I think it only had like one season.
Oh, wow.
And because of the Ryan Reynolds downfall, none of the toys sold. So then they pulled the show.
Right.
And you learn so much about all the other cores, like, blue, indigo, pink, orange, yellow. And a lot of people don't even know there's those colored lanterns. And they actually didn't, I thought I had my Blackest Night comic around here, but they didn't actually weren't invented until like 2009 or 10. I think when Geoff Jones did his run on Blackest Night. So they're fairly new. So I mean, a lot of people don't know about. Of course, Yellow Lantern, Sinestro, like that. He's always been around, but the Red Lanterns are like the real bad guys in this, the whole storyline. So it's amazing how deep it goes. I didn't realize it's like the Star Wars of Marvel.
Yeah.
If you're a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, the whole space theme definitely takes over a lot of that, which is, I remember you mentioning kind of one of the reasons you leaned towards Nova when you bought that Nova book as well, just is because they are kind of probably the closest thing in Marvel to what, DC has in Green Lantern. So that makes a lot of sense too.
That's true. They're like kind of police officers of,
yeah.
I'm not a narc or anything, but I do like the whole, aspect of, traveling to different worlds, and it's just something that, Batman doesn't do. So it's a whole other favorite character for me.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. The imagination kind of lets you run wild with it. As opposed to just being in Gotham City or something like that.
Sure. And hey, Batman's gone to other worlds. Don't get me wrong, but it's an everyday thing for these guys. Yeah.
Very true. Raging is screaming Nightwing. So there you go.
Yes.
Theo says, "Oh, nice. The old, new, and future CGC cases look great as well." And that was to Raging's. The new CBCS cases look good too. Yeah, I saw a breakdown from, I think, Reggie Collects, who I was just telling you about before the show. He did a comparison of CBCS new cases and old cases.
I'll have to check them out.
Definitely. I want to go back for a sec and mention that, you talked about how reading comics, it definitely can be confusing, especially if you're newer to it and you're not quite sure the order that you're supposed to read certain things in, especially if you jump into a random issue that's not even the very beginning of an issue. One thing I would recommend, at least to give it a shot, and I know there are some people who can't stand digital reading versus the physical books, but I do think digital could teach you a thing or two in terms of how to read the panels,
because it
brings you it has like this feature called like a panel to panel feature.
That way I don't look ahead, right?
So that was the other thing I was going to say earlier, was I literally have that same problem, and it really takes away from my enjoyment of the comic because I ruin surprises,
Sure.
So when you're focused and you can't see anything else because all they show you is this one panel, I can now get the full story in the right order, and then swipe to the next thing. So when you do go and hit, to a big splash page, it really hits you where you're like, whoa, like, Wolverine getting blown up or something, something crazy. So it's something to think about. I consider myself fairly new to reading comics myself. I mean, a little over 2 years in terms of really diving into reading. So, I'm not much far behind you in terms of that stuff. So, I found it being very helpful. So maybe something to take a stab at is trying to download either the Marvel Unlimited app. The only downer is it's only Marvel stuff. But Marvel Unlimited is great, or you could just go with Comixology, which you might have heard of. And that carries everything from indie stuff and Image to DC stuff, and it has everything. So there you go, writing it down.
Taking notes.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to drop some knowledge on me. So.
Theo says digital has helped a lot, bro. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely there for, again, just to be able to get the book, take in the actual content at a decent space. And if you have like an iPad, or even if you're just, on your phone, like you mentioned before, you're traveling, things like that. It's easy. You don't have to necessarily bring these books with you, and you don't want to get them damaged or whatever. There's definitely some pluses. Mercy's in the house all the way from Sweden. What's good, Andres? Good to see you, brother.
Yo, my I'm Swedish. Whole family's Swedish.
There you go, man. Mercy's from Sweden, man.
Can't tell by the hair, but like grandma, all of them. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Mercy, good to see you, brother. Thanks for stopping in. Let's see. Morbius is saying that's a good idea, and the digital reading, yeah, for sure. So, all right, let's talk. What was the next thing I want to hit? All right, so do you have any other books that you want to show? Anything else that you just recently got, or something that means something to you that you want to talk about?
Another little spec I got at the last con was the Galactus origin story. It's not, not the first appearance, just his origin story. And I got this for about $30. So
nice.
It was like, $30 is, somewhat expensive for a comic, that is just a spec or something. But, he just was announced in the Fortnite game. I do think, like I said, they're going space. Maybe not phase 4, but maybe phase 5. I know Kang the Conqueror is going to be a bad guy coming up. But
Cool.
I think Galactus, because they got to introduce Silver Surfer soon. So
totally.
That's
Fantastic Four too, hopefully.
Yes. So that's why I got that one. Other than that, man, I really been into buying these new keys that, well, not really keys. I just bought 2 Moon Knights.
Okay.
They're probably a 9.6 and a 9.4.
Wow.
I haven't been really too keen on getting the 9.8s because, I mean, a 9.6 is fine for me. Like I don't see much of a difference, but the market does.
Yeah.
So I bought that because of the, the Disney Plus series. Probably the best one. I haven't unboxed these yet because I'm waiting to do it on my show.
Sure.
But I will tell you the best one I bought was the first appearance of the Sinister Six. And that was like maybe a 4.5 grading because it's an old book. So I do think they're going to do that coming up with the Spider-Verse and everything going on with Marvel.
So much potential.
Has been long awaited. So I think it was a good pick.
Good pickup. Nice. So I want to ask you, do you have any advice, or even if you just want to share, like, some things that you've learned recently? I always ask the question. I'll just ask you the question formally.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for someone new just getting into comics or just approaching the hobby as a whole, and they don't know anything about it or what to buy, or like, based on your experiences, what would you tell that person?
I think the most confusing thing for me was that, I guess, I don't know if this is true for all comics, but each comic in the run has like a different artist, right? Or the different variant covers that are just, it's just like, I was under the impression, because I'm such an animation guy, that like, this whole run should all look the same, right? And so, so that's what kind of turned me off at first.
Right.
But I would say getting these books has helped me a lot, because it is something I can dive into for multiple days, and everything's like connected and ended right here. For being an animation guy, I'm like, yo, where's the end? Let's wrap this up, like a full story. So I don't think I've read like an individual issue for a long time.
Right.
So I would say that is probably a good place to start. Also, I would say don't sweat like trying to get to the beginning of a run, or obviously reading in the middle of a run's bad, but like the New 52 and all that stuff, it was kind of confusing for me. I'm like, I don't want to be reading something and not know the context. It's like watching Seinfeld or Friends without knowing the inside jokes. It's not as good, right?
Right. If you're in the middle of the episode, it's like,
exactly. What? So I'm still learning, and I think asking people, like, I learned a lot from you, and then my buddy here in town, he was the one that showed me Key Collector and his whole, like, his advice for reading. So I know you gave me some great advice. It's just like, pick a character that you love, and go, look at some art and see what you like, So I think I will try the digital though, because I do have the DCU app, or
that works too.
DC Universe, and they have, all that stuff, and it'd be nice if they even had voiceover reading it, so I didn't have to even read it. Like that would be great. But, no, I will say though, I probably collect more for just the art of it. So cool. I will be reading Flashpoint soon, and a bunch of these other ones. I have like Batman and Robin, and the list goes on. So I'm ready to dive in, but that's my advice.
I love that. I think it's great. And I think that, the trades are perfect, because like you said, they start and they wrap up all in one.
Yeah. That's what they're called, trades?
Yeah, trades or trade paperbacks.
Okay.
It's another term for it. You'll see the initials, TBS or TSB, TPB. And then you'll see like hardcovers or omnibus. An omnibus is like probably like 6 of those books all stapled to one, like all, set to one. So they're the big boys. So like you mentioned, Gem Mint. You follow Gem Mint,
king of the omnibus.
Yeah, I say those are all the omnibus. So things like that. That's another way to kind of go about diving into a certain run that's based on a certain artist or a certain writer. That's where you'll get a little bit more of consistency when you find. I would say find the writer. Really, it's like whoever is the writer is that's given something. That person's gonna. They have a projection of where they want the story to go, and they're going to write that out within their time period of having it. So right now, like Jonathan Hickman is currently writing X-Men, and I think his contract or whatever is about 2 years. He's going to have it for 2 years, and he's already started like a year. I think it's 2 years. But either way, so everything that he started all the way up till he ends, that's all going to tie in together. So for anybody just looking into getting into it, maybe you jump into
writers because I don't know any writers besides like a couple DC guys, and so the writer stays the same throughout the whole run.
Usually,
okay, because I know Spider-Man has gone on for like 1,000 issues, so I don't think. There's different, here and there, right? Okay.
Big time. There's different, totally different worlds, different everything. So the easiest way to go about it is by the writer first and foremost. So if you find 2 issues, if you find like a Spider-Man, 300 and a Spider-Man 5, and you're not sure if like, well, did 5 come first? But this looks a lot newer than the 300. You can look and see who the writers were, and then you'll note like, okay, this writer wrote for these 2 years. This writer just started. So their stories are pretty much, sometimes writers will go back and they'll try to like tie in some things where you had to have known it, but not often. But I actually do like when writers do that out of like respect of the older writers, Another thing that's interesting too is like Daredevil. I've been reading a lot of Daredevil, and Chip Zdarsky is the writer now. But before that, it was this guy, Charles Soule. And he essentially, spoilers, he essentially killed off Daredevil. And I heard him talk about this in an interview where he said, it's always interesting, to know that there's going to be a new writer coming up. And I like to leave the story really screwed up to see how they take it over from there.
Give him a challenge.
Yeah, because it's like, well, you just killed the character, so how do I resurrect this guy now? Now they have to somewhat build off of what they just finished on, but then take it and make it their own. So to some degree, anyways, at least with more modern writers.
Well, and that's why, even in the movies, like when people are like, I can't believe they killed off these villains. It's like, it's like, of course, like the rule is if you see a body, and it's confirmed dead, then they're dead, right?
Right.
So I know MCU has kind of an issue with just killing off some good villains without using. But like we said, multiverse, comics always bring them back somehow. So the one thing I guess in the movies, we got to see all the heroes team up. I think they're gonna go, towards the villain team up next.
Yeah.
With like a Secret Wars. Like I know that Kevin, whoever it was that wanted, Russo brothers said they wanted to come back for Secret Wars, which would be epic.
That would be crazy. And there's so many characters in that.
Right.
Right. And as you're talking about how all the superheroes getting together, I like that Mercy here chiming in about your Sinister Six idea. It would be great. I know Mercy's a big Spider-Man fan.
Oh man.
So Sinister Six, that would be a great way to kind of
sure.
Imagine if it would be great if they had their own movies each, and then they all got brought together, kind of like how Avengers got movies.
Like the villain,
like learn about how they became, like their origin, like how they got started. I think it'd be cool.
Or give them a Disney Plus series.
That too, man. That's probably an easier way to go about it, if anything.
I mean, I think it's going to be great for Disney Plus because you don't get sometimes you don't get the time to explain everything about a character in a 2-hour movie. So I think you can do some epic stuff with Disney Plus Marvel stuff.
Absolutely. I hope they realize that what they have. They must, because you're right. They totally can. I want them to do it with X-Men because there's so many characters in X-Men. Yeah. If you give you give Rogue her own show and kind of show some things about her, maybe one to Gambit. People would love a Gambit, TV show, things like that. Like, and you get a little bit of background. Then you could do a movie and you bring them all together.
Of course. Speaking of the mutants real quick, did you watch the New Mutants?
No, not yet. I have not. I saw it's going to be available to purchase or whatever, or it is now.
Yeah, I watched it 2 nights ago.
You did? Okay.
And I won't say anything.
All right. Did you like it, or you give me a yes or no?
I was entertained.
You were? Okay. All right.
But it's definitely got that horror aspect.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not a big horror guy. So
right.
I don't like scary movies. It was fine. It didn't feel like a regular superhero movie, which I guess is a nice break. Yeah. But I know the critics didn't really.
Yeah. They weren't so friendly.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, yeah, no, I definitely want to check that out
for sure.
eventually. All right, so let's change it up here. I think I've kind of gone through a lot of the majority of things that I wanted to ask you in terms of the notes that I gave you or the questions I prepped for. Everyone in the chat already knows I prep people with questions and all that stuff. So no secrets. And real quick, guys, anyone that's just joining or that's kind of chimed in, make sure you guys follow Pat. His information is down in the description below. His YouTube channel as well, and his Instagram channel. So Pat, I want to ask you a couple of, I call them rapid questions, although they're not. My girlfriend called me out. She's like, "You're not rapid because you're not like asking them fast enough." And I'm like, "All right, yeah, but I like to let them elaborate and talk a little bit." And so what I call it the rapid question section. All right, so we talked a little bit. We already asked. I asked your favorite character. You already answered that. If you had a superpower, if you could have a superpower of your own, what would that superpower be?
I think I'd go with teleportation or speed, super speed.
Okay.
Because I think I actually run around my house when just going from the bedroom to the kitchen. I'm like sprinting, and even though it's like tiny little corners of I think I do things so quick in my head, like I need to slow down sometimes. So I think it would be very convenient for real life. But then of course flying is a close second but then I think about realistically flying. Right now it's freezing. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to go flying. I'd have to bundle up, right? That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. So I think with some superhero powers, you need that other little power to make it real. Like so, for instance, flying. You get flying. What if you were more of a floater? You know what I mean? And you just move super slow. And it's like you want speed with your flying, so you got to have the muscles to be able to stop, and they all kind of go into each other. I remember seeing a YouTube video. It was a parody of the same question, and these guys had a genie in front of them, and I can't remember what channel, but they were like, "I'll take Wolverine's claws," and they got the claws.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
And they didn't get the healing powers, so they're just like bleeding all over the place, and they're going back and in. They're like, ah.
It's so funny.
So I think about that. When people ask me that question, I think about that video all the time.
It makes sense, man.
I think teleportation. I think I'd go with teleportation.
Nice.
Because, now that I say it out loud, if it was the Barry Allen's Flash Speed Force powers, then I'd go with super speed. Yeah. If it was just super fast and I couldn't tap into the Speed Force and do all these other cool things, or I didn't have quick healing that he has, I'd go with teleportation.
Right. All right. I dig it. I have to say, I'm a little surprised. I thought you were going to go with the theme of the ring that you got on, because you could go anywhere with that thing.
It's too easy for someone to get. I think about that when I think about storylines and how the Flash could even get punched by someone. It's like, dude, you didn't see that coming. Right. So it's like they always have to find reasons for them to get into altercations, right? Sure. The Flash TV show is horrible at that. He'll just say, look back and get hit by something, and my parents and I watch it, and they both go, "Run, Flash!"
Use your power, man.
Yeah. And so I always thought about Green Lantern, there's so many stories about his ring losing power, or being stolen or not working, and so there's all these things that go with it. So I've thought about it a lot.
Nice. All right.
Maybe if it was part of my hand, it was no power. Yeah.
All right. What about So I like to ask this question, and I know you're learning a lot of these names. So if you don't have one, it's all right. We can kind of talk about it. But if you could meet one artist or writer, or actually, let's just say creator, because this can tie into producers and people who have created the animation stuff and things like that. If you could meet one creator and have dinner with them and just talk for an hour and pick their brain, who would that be? Anything of that nature.
Interesting.
I mean, I guess we could even go into the direction of directors and things like that, because they're all creators.
It kind of reminds me. Well, first of all, I didn't really tell my full Stan Lee story.
We got to go.
Well, Stan Lee came to my parents' convention. I was one. I didn't let Stan Lee hold me because I was at that age of
kicking
I was
and
scared of everything. But there is a couple of pictures of us together, which is pretty cool. And so I kind of like tell people that I met Stan Lee. I did, right? I don't remember it, but it's a cool story about that. Real quick, my dad brought him an article. My dad grew up in Chicago, and he brought him an article that his mom sent to him. My dad's always been a nerd for this stuff, so my grandma sent him an article back in the day of Stan Lee in the Chicago Tribune, and he took it to Stan Lee and was like, "Hey, do you mind signing this?" And Stan Lee was kind of like shocked, and he goes, "You know what? I've been trying so hard to hunt down this article, and I could never find it. Over years and years, I could never find it because it was right when like Marvel picked back up and like got their legs again." And so my dad goes, "Oh, I mean, you can have it." And like Stan Lee was so grateful, like for it. So like, you know, my dad tells that story any chance he can get, but so do I guess. But you know, like you said, I haven't done much with, but I know like because of Flashpoint being such an epic story and Blackest Night, and they both being Jeff Jones. Am I saying that right? Jeff Johns.
Jeff Johns. It looks like Joff. I mean,
I was like, okay, Jeff Johns. Well, like I said, I have a lot to learn, but it would probably be him because Blackest Night is probably one of my favorite like storylines or runs ever. Yeah. So if they can adapt the HBO Max series, like to maybe build up to that and then have the Lantern Corps movie like be the final showdown, epic.
That'd be dope. That would be dope. Very cool. I love that. What about, so this is right down your alley. What is your favorite superhero film of all time? If you had to pick one, what's your favorite film? Any comic book related film?
You know, a couple of things came to mind. Okay. You know, one right away was Kick-Ass.
Ooh, nice.
Yes, because it's one of those things where, like I said, I love the aspect of Batman being a human and people taking on the mantle just without superpowers. So that one was fantastic. I got the poster for Kick-Ass 2 right here. But when it comes down to it, I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Iron Man 1 is unbeatable, like in my mind for, I mean, you know, if you look at Kick-Ass and Iron Man 1 budgets and everything, like, I guess, you know, it was still a small film, Iron Man 1. So, but just the aspect of that, those visual effects and all the practical stuff, like, oh man, I was blown away. Yeah. Like I get really wrapped up in stuff, but Iron Man 1, I'll say, is my final answer.
I love that, man. It's a great choice. You can't go wrong with Iron Man 1. It's certainly in my top 3 of all the Marvel stuff that has come out. So, you know, it's kind of where it all began. And
what's your one? What's your number 1?
Oh man, I have to say, it's really tight. It's got to be Civil War. War.
That's a big fan favorite. You know, that is,
I just love everything about it. They introduced characters that you know, came together, and that one's got to be my number 1 out of all. I mean, that's the one that I could literally watch 400 times in a row.
Yeah, I gotta go
not get sick of it
and watch that again. It's been a while.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna go back and watch like them all in order and do like a video on it or something.
Dude, that's not a bad idea. Get your reactions again, things like that. I like that.
Just put the title there and be like, oh. Anyway,
I wanted to highlight here. Mercy's talking about the Wolverine actually has 2 powers. Yeah, I think it might have been Mercy that sent me that video. Sent me that video, but that Wolverine video is really funny. Rage is saying, just wear the suit. Just wear that suit for your superhero power.
No, I've been doing some Muay Thai. So.
Great stuff. All right, let's change it up a little. This is some non-comic book related questions.
Ooh.
So the first one's going to be, let's talk about music. Where are you at with music right now? What are your current jams? And kind of what's your number 1 go-to, you know, band or artist if you had to think? And do you play anything yourself? Are you an artist yourself?
You know, it's funny you ask that. Actually, I got into videography because I was in a hip hop group in high school.
No way.
Rap group, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And so, I had to do our own music videos. I was always the kid with the camera in my hand growing up. Mom's, I was lucky enough to be in that age of like realizing how annoying that shoulder camera was, to then going to the flip handheld and then going to the actual flip cameras, if you remember those.
Yeah.
So and actually I still make music to this day.
Yeah.
I'm much more of a writer. I kind of have a problem with sit down and learning something new that's difficult. Like I'm kind of stubborn like that. So like my dad has put the guitar in my living room and just, one of these days you'll pick it up. That's what he keeps saying. One of these days. So everyone that comes over, oh, you play? I'm like, one of these days.
One of these days.
So I do, if you do want to check me out on Spotify, Pat Clark Music, I kind of have this, funky Chainsmokers type rap, like, Kanye, Lupe Fiasco. Those were big influences growing up.
Dope.
Yeah. So I like stuff with melody. And I would say right now, two really underrated artists that people don't hear about a lot is John Bellion.
Oh, I love John Bellion.
Oh, dude. I got to see him live, and it was like the best.
Oh, man. That's
and
dope,
then
man.
Quinn 92. And they've actually collabed a couple of times. And
I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah, Quinn, you probably heard some of his stuff. Like, yeah. But anyway, those guys are, they do the beats, they do the production, the engine, all of it. Yeah. And they're pretty on point. And they're not like too big to where like they're on the radio. I mean, there's like one John Bellion song that has been on the radio.
Right.
But other than that, they like got a nice little fan base, and I think they're happy with it. So
yeah. I think John Bellion is going to take off. I mean, he's going up. He's in this direction right now.
I think I don't think he wants to, though, because
he might not want to, but
he's a smart man.
Yeah.
And he's got like that, probably 10 million followers, right? Or that really like in the world. Like when it comes to being a Beyonce and all those type of things,
right.
Life changes. Like I'm sure John Bellion can still go to Dairy Queen,
a grocery store or something.
Yeah, without like being mobbed.
I love Dairy Queen.
People will come up and take pictures, but not mobbed.
Right.
So he actually writes for people. Probably know that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a smart way in the music industry. I've been thinking about going into that more because I don't want to be an artist either, but I have this urge to write and make music. So I have some friends in LA, and I go out to shoot LA music videos like maybe 5 times a year. So like I got a nice little friend group out there that writes, performs, act, so nice. I'm gonna put out my feelers here pretty soon. So
yeah, man, do it. I think that's definitely, you're right about that. It's the way to go where you don't have to deal with the fame, but writers make a lot of money. They can make more money than the entertainers sometimes.
Hell yeah.
So I like that Todd just says, definitely agree with the Civil War being the best Marvel movie. It was better than the comic it was based on too. Actually, so I can't even speak to that because I didn't get to read Civil War when it was hot and it came out. That's what I need to go back to.
I know Captain Marvel was huge in the comic book run. She was like the other team captain. You know what I mean? Like she was like the big player in that. So I'm glad she wasn't.
Yeah.
So it works.
Definitely. All right, next question here. Are you a sports guy? And if you are, who is or are your number one teams?
I'm glad you asked these because I'm a big hobby guy. Like the more hobbies I have, the more fun I have. So I'm huge into sports. I wanted to be an MLB player growing up. I always played baseball till about maybe sophomore year. Coaches were dicks. So and then I quit baseball and went and did musical theater, and it was an amazing decision because I had such a blast. But and actually the reason I joined the diving team in high school because it was the closest sport to Spider-Man. That's what I told people. So I learned how to do all these flips and stuff, and now still, nights out at the bars, I'm a little show off, and I'll run up a wall and do a backflip. And I kind of show off with my parkour ability and be like,
Yeah.
But other than that, right before this, I was up watching some college football, like NFL. I was born in the Bay Area. My parents lived there for 25 years. So I'm a big Raiders fan.
Okay.
And
Nice.
now I guess I'm a Vegas Raiders fan.
Yeah.
What a great excuse to go to Vegas.
Hey, right? That's what I'm saying. I'm a Raiders fan. Yeah.
And then, of course, baseball, I'm a Giants fan. But I've recently been getting into sports betting a little bit.
Ooh.
And
I'm there with you. We'll have to talk later.
And right there. And it's just every game that I don't care about the teams, it makes it interesting. Even if it's a little $10, $25 here, get up to the $200 range once in a while. But it's fun. I think it's I call it my expensive hobby. That's
nice.
If you think comics is expensive,
it's hard when you lose. It is hard.
Yeah. But first thing, if I win a big bet, you best believe I'm thinking about comics the next day.
Go get that grail. Go get that nice grail. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So what about, I love this question. I want to ask you, if it's a Friday night and you have the house to yourself, you get to choose any type of meal for your dinner on a Friday night. What is your go-to dinner meal for Friday night? Whether you're ordering out, you're cooking, you're traveling out somewhere, where do you go?
Okay, so I haven't eaten meat in a year.
Okay.
So and a little seafood here and there. I'm not too strict about it. Like, it was mainly for a health workout thing. Okay. But my guilty pleasure is Chinese takeout. Like, not so much Chinese, but I have this place called Asian Grill, right by and so I'll get chicken pad thai minus the chicken. Nice. And then get I'm kind of a sucker for ordering 2 rounds of crab ragout and just smashing them all.
Oh yeah.
And I'll just put on, right now I'm binging Spider-Man, the animated series from the 90s.
Nice.
And so I'll just put that on, start eating. Illinois just passed recreational weed, so I'm rolling up and just and so I'm that's my happy place right there. It's on the couch with some Asian food, watching some Spider-Man. Boom.
Nice. I love it, man. I love it. Yeah. We've had some good mix of different types of food, and I really make the mistake in asking this question because I just start to get really hungry right about now.
I'm about to go make a pizza right after.
Usually Saturdays are my pizza night. I'm not sure if we're ordering pizza tonight, but nice. Maybe tomorrow for the game. Nice. Very cool. That's pretty much wraps up the questions I want to ask you. I want to, before we really sign off, I want to kind of leave you with a bit of a platform here. Feel free. Where can people find you? Do you have any upcoming videos coming out? Any live events or things like that? Share a little bit about what's going on.
All right, cool. So I'm. This is the Pat Cave. My name's Pat Clark, and you can find me on Instagram at PatCaveComics or on YouTube at PatCaveComics. And I've just been having a blast doing this. I just built a Lego Batmobile with my friend, so that'll be the next episode. I've never built a Lego thing, and taken the rules. I'm not a rule follower, so it was rough for me. So the next episode will be all about Batmobiles, going to the history of them, and so I'm just kind of having fun here in the Pat Cave, and that's about it, man. I can't wait to get back to Comic-Cons. Next year, I'm going to go hard.
Hell yeah.
And take my camera to the cons and do recaps and interviews with fellow cosplayers.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
I love that. Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. I know we've collaborated in the past, and this certainly won't be the last time, I'm sure. Keep learning, keep doing what you're doing, and obviously reach out if you ever have any questions. The people in the chat here, they're all great people to follow at some point. They're all in the community, so
I know I follow Hood Rat Comics. I know that
you do. Perfect.
I'm gonna go look back at the comments and go check them out for sure. Thanks for having me in the Hall of Justin.
I like it.
You like that?
I like it. All right, pen. I gotta write that down.
All right, man. Hey, stay safe out there. Have a good one,
man. Thank you, everybody, again for watching. If you caught the replay, thank you for your time. Until then, one last thing. I am taking off next Saturday because of Thanksgiving. got some family things. So hope everybody has a great holiday and Thanksgiving and enjoy it and be safe. So, all right, guys, talk to y'all soon.